What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Two Catholic Dudes. My name is Ryan Klaus.
My name is Danny Cleary.
This is episode number 12. It is not the episode that we had planned, but
It's not. It's the episode that needed to be recorded, though.
What does Batman say?
It's not the episode we deserved, but the one that we needed.
That's right.
Or something like that.
Something like that. We were going to record, today's Friday, we were going to record an episode on Tuesday. We had a lot of technical difficulties. It wasn't,
to say the least.
It did not work out great. We were pretty bummed, and we had an interesting night. We're going to share about that night, but it kind of led us in the direction of where today's podcast was going to go.
It seems to me like that's happened to us more often than the actual plan goes through. Many times we're like, okay, let's do it. This is our plan. And then we get inspired to do something different, or things go horribly wrong, and here we are.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe we should stop planning things.
I mean, we should probably still plan, but, sometimes God has different plans, and that's what's going to be our topic today.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, again, we were going to have a guest last week, so look out for that in the future. It was going to be Danny's brother, Brendan. We're going to talk a lot about music, because we haven't actually talked about music, even though I am a music director.
Right.
Kind of been avoiding that topic. We'll get into it. It's going to be... not avoiding it, but... Today, it's kind of crazy today. We live in Southern California, and this is fire season. We've had a lot of really bad seasons in the past.
The Santa Ana winds are in full force.
Yeah. So, I mean, remember last year it was wild. The fires were all over, and like we lost houses. And
it was really bad last year. Like tons of evacuations in like the greater Thousand Oaks area where we're actually recording this right now, and there's this fire is a little further south from us, but it's still, these fires are the real deal and they're unpredictable. So we just want to keep everyone that's affected by them in our prayers today. So. Yeah,
so pray for, all of Southern California, because this is really the dangerous time for us. So, we do have it pretty good here in Southern California as far as weather goes. We don't have tornadoes. We do have earthquakes every now and then, but this is usually as bad as it gets with these fires. So please keep all of these people in your prayers.
For sure.
Okay, so let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking about God's plan. It's not your plan, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You've seen those drawings where it goes your plan, and it goes from point A to point B, and it's just a straight line, and then it goes God's plan, and it goes...
It's like a jagged
and there's
road.
like alligators, and you have to like hop over, and it's all jagged and stuff like that, but he gets you there, and
of course,
you learn a lot in that process. You learn about jumping over alligators, and...
Well, it goes back to anytime you hear this quote about when people are talking about a journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey. That's where you grow. That's where you learn. That's where you kind of discover who you are, is on the journey. And a journey is got high points and has low points. And sometimes, honestly, I think we grow the most from the lowest points. Yeah, because we have to grow out of those low points. So
right. I mean, like, no offense if there's parents that do this, but like when a parent just gives their kid a car on their 16th birthday, it's fine. It's totally fine if you do, but
I didn't get a car.
I didn't get it. I had to buy my parents' old car for like 20.
That's what I did.
They gave me a discount on it. They
of
didn't
course.
like rip me off, but I had to pay for it with hard-earned money, and I appreciated it, and I valued, and I took care of it much more than if it was just handed to me. So many like these girls on their 16th birthday, guys too, but then they go and they get in accidents because they don't care. It was just straight up given to them, and there's no appreciation for it.
On that note, this is not really on topic, but it's funny. I bought my dad got a great deal on a car, and it had like 100,000 miles on it already, and it was an Infiniti, and he sold it to me for like dirt cheap. I think it was like $500, but he was like, "You're gonna pay for this," and I remember he put in a ton of work to it, like right before he sold it to me too. So he put in $1,500 of work into this car, and then sold it to me for $500. And then I remember like a month after I had the car, like the check engine light came on, like all kinds of things. I was like, "No, what's happening to you?" But I always laugh at that.
The check engine light isn't so bad. I had a truck for 18 years, and the check engine light was on for like the last 5 years of it.
Well, I make the analogy sometimes because we've talked a little bit about it with my professional wrestling. Sometimes my body takes a pounding, And I made the joke the other day that I think that it's like, just like when your check engine is on your car, a lot of times you just ignore it and hopefully it turns off.
Just hope for the best.
That's how I feel walking around sometimes. I think my body's check engine light is on.
Dude,
I'm just like, I hope that it just turns off.
The other day, this guy texted me, he's like, I feel like I got in a car accident. I'm like, you got in the equivalent of like 50 car accidents, bro. He jumps off the top rope and like lands straight on his back. Oh man, it's
struggles
crazy.
of life.
All right,
Anyway,
so let's talk about this. Let's talk about the night we had the other night.
Okay.
So we had Danny's brother Brendan over. We were going to record our music podcast. We were pretty excited. We actually did our first Instagram live,
and it went awesome.
It was really good.
And we just had, there was a great vibe in the room. Like we were all joking around and just like it was going to be a great discussion.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and we had a great prayer before, and we're like, all right, let's go. And we hit record, and thankfully I looked down and we didn't like do a whole podcast because I looked down and realized that Brendan's microphone was not working. Now, it might look like there's not much here, but we have lights, we have a camera back here, we have
it's about 25 minutes of setup every time we do this podcast.
Yeah, and it goes into a computer and like there's just so much technology working at the same time. There's bound to be something that goes wrong. And something went really wrong, and I had no idea for this one. Yeah, for sure. I had no idea what was going on, and I was getting more and more frustrated trying to troubleshoot. And
I will say this, guys. Of the two of us, Ryan does not get frazzled.
I'm like even keel.
I get frazzled quickly, and I am the more difficult one to deal with. Ryan, it takes a lot to frazzle him.
Yeah,
but he was irate.
Danny's the emotional one. I'm like. Sometimes I feel like I don't have emotions unless I'm watching Field of Dreams, as you guys know.
Right.
But I was getting real heated.
Ready to pull all of his long hair out.
I pulled a bunch of stuff down from my studio and brought it up, and I'm like scrambling, and Brendan had to go, and they're like, guys, let's just call it. I'm like, no, I'm not giving up. And
well, I mean, we had planned to start recording at 8:00. And it was then 8:50, and we still had not figured it out. We were not even close to getting it done. So we didn't want to keep Brendan. He had to work the next day, and like you could tell the energy of the room we felt all defeated because we could not figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
So
we sent Brendan home, and sure enough, like 10 minutes after he left, I figured out it was a stupid bonehead thing I was doing. There's one button on my computer that I didn't click. I forgot to click it, and we were in business. I always try to think of the silver linings. How was God working in that awful moment? And I'm like, you know what? We're trying to get other guests on the show. Brendan is a friend. He's a family member.
Right.
You never want that to happen. But like, what if we invited Bishop Barron and he so graciously agreed to be on the Two Dudes podcast? We're like, yeah, we can't get your mic to work. So can you just shout into ours? That would have been awful. So, I think it was teaching us a lesson to not take for granted what we have in front of us and really learn and be prepared for all circumstances.
For sure.
Because things are going to go wrong. And, I think we learned a lot from that.
And we're appreciative that Brendan was super cool about it. Like he was like, hey man, it happens. No worries. We'll reschedule.
So to get this, then we're like, all right, we're not going to end on a down note. We got to film something. So if you guys have been watching and following on our Instagram channel, which you should, follow us at _Two Catholic Dudes on Instagram. We've been doing Psalm of the Week on Wednesdays. I do an original psalm, but then on Tuesdays, Danny does Tuesday Thoughts with Danny. And we're stepping up the recording, the production value on that as well. So we record with the camera, we put a little music in there. So we're like, we're going to do a Tuesday Thoughts here. All right, so set the scene now.
So Ryan, the thing I love about Ryan, guys, is that he's very like determined. And he was like, we got to get, he's like, we got to get something. So he goes, hey, come up with something. And I came up with this thought, and I was like, hey, this is actually really good. And we were both really excited about it. And we sat down, and we got the lights all set up, and we're ready to go. And we start recording, and first of all, it took me about 20 takes to get this thing the way that I wanted it. And it's so frustrating when you're filming anything, is a minute product that you're putting out took a half an hour to record because I kept messing it up or whatever it was. It was a long process of
that's my whole thing, and I'll push him, and I'm like, you know what? It's worth it. It's a minute, but like it's worth it to put in that extra effort.
Right.
At some point, you have to be like, it's fine. Let's put this out and let's move on. At some point, you lose productivity, but
but we persevered, and we were like, okay, and then so we do it, and we get this last take, and I was convinced it was the best.
It was magic. You guys,
talk
it was magical.
I've ever done. It was the best thing I've ever said ever. I was like, wow, I felt so great about it. So we go down, we clean everything up, we take down all the lights, everything. We go down, put the footage in, and there's this horrible buzzing sound over the footage. And we kept looking at each other like, this isn't happening. And we're like, nope. And we double check other footage, make sure it can't be the footage. Maybe it's just the camera. Maybe it's the speakers.
It was toast. It was
the footage.
Yep.
We don't know what happened, but it was.
I can't express how good this take was. You guys will never hear anything this moving in your life. So Danny's like on the floor, curled up almost in the fetal position in defeat. And it's like 11:30 and I go, no, we are not going to be defeated like this. And I charge up the stairs with our big light. And I'm like, we are getting this again. We're fixing it. We're figuring it out. We're going to make it happen. And we set that stuff up again. And we did 5 more takes.
It was more than 5.
But we got a really good take. And we finished it. And we ended on a positive note. And we got something that we wanted.
Yeah.
So, Danny,
so be on the lookout for that on Tuesday.
Danny even was like, he put on the speech from Rocky 5
I did.
or 6.
Whenever I'm feeling down, and we're going to talk more about struggle, but whenever I'm feeling struggle or feeling defeated or whatever, there's a scene in Rocky Balboa, the movie. I think it's like the 4th Rocky movie or 5th Rocky movie. But he talks about how the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep going. I posted on my Instagram also the same day. But I watched that scene, and it just jazzes me up, and I'm like, all right, come on.
We made it happen. So, it was an interesting night. It didn't go the way we planned. Absolutely not. No. But I think it gave us strength to know that we could deal with so many different problems in terms of this new ministry with all the technology. Things are going to get thrown in our way, and are we going to be able to persevere and overcome them? Well,
and Ryan actually made the analogy when we were, because guys, he can't describe it enough. I was laying on the floor, just like, no. Ryan is running past me, bringing stuff back upstairs.
I'm like, you stay there in the fetal position. I got it.
And
we're going to make this
work. I kept saying, no, I can't do it. We can't continue. And Ryan made the analogy of, look, maybe this is God trying to see how bad we want to do this. How bad do you want to be disciples? How bad do you want to spread the faith? Because we've been very blessed with this ministry so far to have it really has grown way quicker than we ever anticipated. Realistically, we've been only doing this for about a month.
To like 2 months, maybe?
2 months, and we've jumped almost to 1,000 followers. We're getting all kinds of great views. We're getting all kinds of great feedback. We've gotten a lot of opportunities of people that want to bring us to retreats and events and stuff. So
if you guys are looking for people, we are booking ourselves for retreats in the 2020 season. So email us at twocatholicdudes@gmail.com.
Yeah. So but this ministry has just grown so much, and Ryan was like, maybe this is God. Like, how bad do you guys want it? I'm like, are you going to give up because it got hard one time? Because every other time we've recorded has been a dream.
It's been a dream.
And
knock on wood.
Knock on wood. And then this time was like that of nightmares.
Exactly.
But and I will say, like, Ryan was the spearhead there, the general that said we're not giving up, and ended up turning out to be, a good evening. We got some good stuff.
So I know that was a long story. Thanks for sticking with it. Some people love banter like that on podcasts. Some people are like, get to the meat, get to the content. But that's part of the content.
Yeah.
That story was part of the content. And this episode is going to be a little bit more intimate in our personal stories because we want to talk about the times that we struggle, the times that our plan didn't go the way we wanted it to, and the way that we had to see God working in those difficulties and those struggles.
Right.
And I think everybody goes through. I know that everybody goes through struggles, and I'm a kind of a half full glass. The glass is half full kind of person, and I think you really need to have that mindset to have an optimistic look on life. To be like, okay, this is horrible, but what is God trying to teach me? What is God trying to tell me? How is he trying to make me a better disciple or grow in my love or however?
How is he trying to make you look more like him?
Precisely.
How is this going to make you more of a reflection of Jesus? And I think that you hit it right on the mark there. Is the don't focus on the bad things that are happening, because if you do that, you're already defeating. You're defeating yourself when you're just like everything. You only focus on the bad things that happen. You have a great analogy that you've told me one time about poker. I don't remember how it goes. How does it go?
I want to tell you that, but before we get into the poker, even I want to talk about this is a little iffy. I wasn't sure I wanted to share this, but like some people say, well, why would God let something bad happen in the first place? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of terrible things that go on in this world. Sometimes if you live in this little Catholic bubble, you don't see a lot of it, but in our own personal lives and outwardly in the whole world. Like, why do so many people get cancer? Why do so many people die in car accidents? Why are so many people dying from hunger? So here's my personal belief. I don't believe that God wants these bad things to happen. I don't think he wills that upon the human race. But God loved us so much that he gave us free will. He gave us the opportunity to choose him freely, because if he controlled everything in this world, we would be puppets, and that's not true love. So the only way to show our true love and devotion to our God is for him to give us control, and not only humans, but the entire world, all of the physical properties and all of nature,
right,
to have its own sense of free will. And like, earthquakes happen, fires happen. I don't think he wants anyone's house to burn down, but I do think God takes those opportunities when those things happen. And if you're open to it, if you're a glass half full kind of person, that you can see God moving you in the direction that he wants you to move in those horrendous things or those struggles or whatever. I was listening to Bishop Barron talk the other day. We usually either quote Bishop Barron or Father Mike once an episode, where he was discussing free will, and he gives the analogy he loves Bob Dylan, and he's like, if somebody told him that Bob Dylan was having a concert at his house Friday night, and that person knew that Bishop Barron was available that evening, he didn't have any other obligations, he was in town, he was feeling good, he wasn't sick or anything like that, he would probably be about 99.99% sure that Bishop Barron would go. But is anyone forcing Bishop Barron to go? No. He's deciding out of his own free will, but that path was laid before him. That path was cleared. The way was made, it was ready for him so that he could go. So I think that's kind of the way that I look at free will. I think it's a right way to go. And so, again, these bad things might happen. I don't think God wants them to, but it lets us walk down the right path.
Yeah, and that's the thought of free will and when bad things happen, like that's like a crazy like domino effect of thing. Like, you know, when people are like, how God doesn't sit up with a control room and you're like, earthquake, tidal wave, fire, like, you know what I mean?
It's beyond our thought. We
can't comprehend. It's not like Pocket God, that game on your phone where you're like, I'm gonna make a tornado.
Sin City,
yeah, or things like that. It's not like that. We don't understand the complexity of God, and like we could attempt to, but we just won't. We can't understand the vastness of the power of God. And, you know, like all things like we talk about the fire. Oh, a fire started because a power line came down. Like, God didn't will that, but like someone had to make the choice to put the power line there in the first place.
Causality.
And it's like there's so many bad things happen. The world is full of struggle. And instead of looking at why did God do this, we have to go back to what you were saying of where is God in this? Where is God going to be? Where is God pushing me to be at the end of this? Who does he want me to be at the end of this? How does he want me to see him at the end of this? I think because it says that our faith teaches us that in our struggle, in our suffering, we're united with the crucified Christ. You know, he came down to suffer so that he could show us that he understands that humanity will suffer. But if we believe in him and trust in him, we will rise again. Right? You know, and so like bad things happen. That's just life. But it's where do you run to God when bad things happen, or do you run away from him? As hard as they may be, and even if you don't understand. Yeah.
So that kind of leads us to that poker analogy that we were talking about. I used to be an aspiring professional poker player.
PokerStars Online.
That was me, and I would.
My cousin's the same way. He played that a lot.
Yeah, I was all about it. I thought I was going to be professional. I was pretty good, but I don't think I was good enough to do it full time. It takes a lot of time too.
You always beat us at my dad would have poker nights. He'd always clean us out.
Clean up, man. I would go to the casinos down in LA there, and I was making it a thing.
Nice.
Here's one thing that I started noticing in my poker adventures. After every session, you'd have like your poker community, your friends that you would talk to, whether by text or like that were there in person, whatever. Everyone would want to share their quote unquote bad beat story. In poker, if you have a solid hand, either a solid starting hand or it's like it's on lock, you got this hand, but then someone miraculously comes back and beats you. It's called a bad beat, and everyone always wants to share their bad beat stories with everyone after the game. You wouldn't believe what happened. I had pocket aces. That's a really good starting hand. And then this guy came in the hand with like 10-3. It was like some garbage hand. And he came back at the end and he beat me. And he's yada yada. And the story's like obnoxiously long. And everyone would be like, bro, I don't care. Move on. Because everyone's heard it and everyone's had those bad beats.
Right.
And you're just like, I would start to say, everyone would be bad beat story after bad beat. I'd be like, hey man, stop. I'm going to stop you right there. Tell me about the good hands that you had that night. He's like, no, I don't know. You're not.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. But like, let me tell you about this bad. I'm like, stop. Try to remember at least one good hand that you had. He's like, no, you're not understanding. I'm trying to tell you the bad story. And I think they're letting that one bad hand mask the view of the entire game they had. I'm sure there was a ton of awesome things that happened throughout that game, but they're letting that one bad experience let them spiral out of control. And maybe they didn't have any good experiences because that one bad experience, it let them get emotionally out of control. And one thing I know in poker, you have to keep an even keel emotionally. You can't let
your poker face.
Yeah. So if you let that one hand start to rally you up, then you're going to start making more bad decisions, and your gameplay is going to be bad, and you're going to go broke. So I think that, in terms of life, like, how are we viewing what's going on in our day? If you wake up in the morning and you're driving to work and somebody cuts you off in traffic, hopefully you're giving them a thumbs up instead of something else. But like, what would our pastor always used to say after
he said
on Christmas Mass?
If Christmas Mass, if somebody cuts you off, just please make sure you wave with all your fingers.
All fingers. But so whatever outburst you have at this person that cuts you off, I usually just like laugh at them. I go, look at this guy. And then I just move on with my day. But some people say, they let that get to them. And then they get to work and go, hey man, how was your morning? They go, you'll never guess what happened. This guy cut me off. And things just spiral out of control. And then before you know it, they're having the worst day of all time. But like, can we change the filter of how we look at things, how we perceive things? Can we look with a positive attitude and try to find God working in whatever's going on in our life? I think that's going to make life so much easier and we'll be able to understand our lives.
Well, I think that it comes down to this is people want to be the bad things that happen to you, I think gets a lot more attention sometimes, right? People will give you more attention, like, oh man, that sucks that happened. And I see it especially when I work with the high school students. Everybody wants to tell me about the worst part of their day.
Yeah.
And it's fine. And you can see God in bad things. Obviously you do. But I think if that's the ultimate focus, like, God also wants to be in our joy. But we are talking about struggle today. So, I mean, we're going to focus on the fact that God does lift us up in our struggle. But I think it's not about being so focused on the bad, but like, how did you get through it? Like, don't focus on it, but what came of it? Like, what positive came of that?
Exactly.
And sometimes it's really difficult to notice, and sometimes you won't know for years to come. And maybe in the situation of like there's always people say, oh, well, somebody cut me off and I had to stop or whatever. And there's people that say, oh, maybe that was God saving you from an accident down the road that you didn't know was going to happen or something like that.
Yeah, so you might never know. Right?
Or there's a picture that I post on the youth ministry's Instagram, and it's a picture of a guy and he gets hit in the back of the head with a rock. And he goes, oh, God, why did you let that bad thing happen to me? And then it zooms up and it's Jesus standing there and he's like, oh, sorry, did one get through? And he's getting like pelted with like a bunch of rocks. And or there's another one that's like a guy walking down the street and he's like sad and depressed, and there's like angels fighting all these demons around him, like saving him and it's like, so we never know what God is protecting us from, or what, like, there's always, things could always be worse.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not focus on that bad, because sometimes it's, we want people to be like, feel bad for us and things like that, because we feel, more connected to them sometimes. I don't know. It's tough.
I think the way, though, that you're able to see how God is working, because again, it's sometimes you might not never know, but sometimes the way to do that is in prayer. If you don't stop and pray to God and discern and really analyze what's happening in your life and asking God to speak to you, you're not going to know. You're just going to be, ambling through life in the dark with the lights off and just be like, oh, I don't know, it's going to go wherever. But like,
I think that's really important, because in prayer, when we go to God too, is change our prayer. Not God, why did this happen? But God, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Or what do I need to do from here?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes when bad things happen and maybe things get presented to us, ways to see the good or ways to see opportunity or ways to see different things that could come of it, we're so focused on that it was bad, we kind of close those things out.
Yeah.
You know? And I've definitely seen that in my own life with plenty of struggles that I've gone through, is I've only focused on the really bad, and I didn't really open my eyes to see all the great stuff that was going on. I'll go into it a little bit.
We want to make this under an hour, and I can be pretty long-winded and have way too many details. So I think we're each going to share one story in our lives that are, some difficult times, and how we each saw God working in those moments. So in order to make that under an hour, let's get into it.
Yeah. Mine is, obviously we've all struggled throughout all of life, and I'll just talk about today the most recent struggle, I guess, that I've been through is where my life, we're talking about God's plan, right? And how struggle can change the plan that we think we have. I've never really understood that more until this last year, where I was in a relationship for a really long time, a great relationship.
How many years?
9 years.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. It's like all of my adult life, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a part of my life that it was really great. It's a great, and it's still like a great memory. And there's a lot of things about that I look back on fondly. But like that was my plan, and there was a lot of things that I didn't do fully because I was I wanted to do I thought that was what I was called to do. That was my plan. That was what I was going to do. Being in the relationship was the plan. And I intended, like, I'm going to get married. I'm going to, like, this is it. I found it. I'm done. I don't need to date anymore. I don't need to worry anymore. Like, I'm in this relationship, and that's great. And maybe honestly that sense of comfortability and complacency maybe had led to the end of it. I don't know. But anyway, so like I was in it. I was fully invested, and I was ready to go. And we ended up having some problems and breaking up a couple, like last year or before that, a little before that. And I was a wreck.
You were
a wreck.
I can vouch for that.
I was absolutely destroyed emotionally, and we ended up patching things up and getting back together. And we were together then for another little bit of time. And I just, looking back on it, it was never, I think for either one of us, it was never the same that second time through. I think both of us knew that God had other plans for us, or that we both wanted other things.
But when you're in a relationship that long, it's almost like you're dependent on that person because you haven't known anything in your adult life otherwise.
It was like, how do you give up on something you put so much time into? And people fall out of love. That's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so we ended up a couple months ago breaking up again, and this time we were like, that's the end of it. And again, it was I was absolutely a wreck from it. Like it really, really, really messed me up, because I looked not just like, I didn't look like I'm just not losing this relationship. I'm losing everything that I thought I've been working for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I don't know what I'm going to do now.
Your identity was together
in being
as
in
a
that
couple.
relationship with that person.
Sure.
And that was everything that I thought my life was going to be. And then it was all gone in a matter of, it's crazy when it comes to, maybe we'll do a relationship episode, but it's crazy that something that takes 10 years to build can take 10 seconds to lose.
Yeah. I know a lot about that. Let's continue this. We're just going to take a really quick break, and let's hear more about it.
So like I was saying, it was crazy. That was, I think, the craziest part. The biggest struggle is that it was like, how can you invest your entire life into something for a decade and then it to be gone in an instant, And
that's hard.
So
man.
my whole social life, love life, honestly, it affected my personal life, all kinds of different things, all changed in a 1-minute conversation.
Right.
And I really was like, but at that point, because it was the second time and I'd kind of, I think both of us knew that we were moving in that direction.
You kind of saw the writing on the wall, maybe?
Yeah. And because I was really starting to grow in my own personal spirituality more, in my trust in God more, I remember it happened and I went straight to adoration afterwards. That was the first place I went. And I sat and I said, okay, God, what do I do? I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought that was my calling. That was my vocation. That was my plan. What am I supposed to do now? And then we went on retreat. We went to the summer camps together, and I had it was one of the best. Camp Big Deal, the junior high one. We've talked about it before on the podcast. That camp was one of the best camps we've ever done. It was so fun. And I felt so connected to my faith and connected to my friends. And despite having to go through this really difficult thing, I felt that God picked me up in the moment and was like, you're all right. And you got it. Mm-hmm. And you and I had some really serious conversations during those weeks of retreat. And you had said to me, you're like, let's do this thing that we've always wanted to do. Because I had always didn't want to devote too much time to anything, because when you're in a relationship, you have to give time to the relationship.
It's a sacrifice.
That was my priority. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't give too much of myself to other things because I wanted to give myself to that. Especially because I thought I was moving towards marriage. I didn't want to, anyway, but when we spoke about it and you were like, hey man, like, I think that it's time for us to do this. And since the time I was, 18 years old when we first met and I started working with you, we've talked, and I was like, man, my dream is to be able to live my faith and be somebody that people can look to and talk about their faith with and share their faith with, and someone that can get up there and do that and be that person. I would watch the people at Youth Day that shared about their faith, and I would go, I wanted, God, how do I do that? God, how do I get there?
And I'd always been saying you were called to this. This is what I see you doing, and I think that door was always shut because of this, possibly. But
maybe, I don't know. And then like on the retreat this summer, when we had decided, like we announced, I remember we were on retreat and we announced like our podcast. We're doing a podcast. We're gonna start it like in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, Monday, our podcast is happening. And we went and we did it, and we did the first one. And then all of a sudden we started to talk more, and then we started to do more podcasts, and then we built the Instagram, and then we were reaching out to people, and then people were calling us like, hey, can you come do this day? Hey, do you want to go on my retreat? Hey, do you want? And I was like, everything that I had ever like wanted to do and everything that I had wanted to happen and I had prayed for started to happen. It's so fast. And I was like, what is going on? And it was the first time I had been like, okay, God, I got it. I'm listening. What else do you want me to do? And I can think of like so many instances in my life since the breakup that I went through, where I've said, I've gone to God in prayer about something, and he has revealed what he wanted from me not that day or that second, but in that time. I'll give you a small example of that. Aside from this podcast and things like that we've grown, is just last night at youth ministry, I have felt more and more, because we've been doing a lot of research trying to grow our own faith and our own knowledge of the catechesis and all that stuff. And I said, God, I think that the teens need more. They need more meat. They need to know. They need more knowledge of their faith. So I was like, I need to do more Bible Bible instead of games at youth group. So I wrote a whole youth ministry night last night on the Bible. We were going to talk about the Bible. We did parables. We were talking about what was Jesus trying to say, things like that. And I was like, maybe they won't like it. Sometimes kids are like, I just want to play dodgeball. Mm-hmm. But I thought, you know what? No, we're going to have a whole night about faith, like about the scriptures and about God, and fully dive in. Instead of just prayer, it's going to be a whole night based on it. And I prayed about it. I said, God, I think this is what I need to do. And we went, and the first thing that happens when I get there is one of my leaders walks in, and she goes, Danny, these missionaries from another faith came to my door today, and they were telling me that what I believed was wrong and that my religion was wrong, and I didn't have the knowledge to answer back with them. And I sat there and went, okay, I hear you. I got it. And then I got to talk with her and be like, okay, here's what you need to say. I gave her all these points and I was like, boom, 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 educating her on how to answer and things like that. And I was like, but it was that affirmation right there that God was like, yes, you're right.
That's awesome.
This is what you need to do. And like that has been happening so much recently. And it started with me going to adoration after my life turned upside down and everything that I thought that I wanted got taken away. I went to adoration and said, okay, God,
I think the biggest thing I'm hearing there is that when things got rough, when things got bad, you ran to God and you did not run away from God.
I didn't. Yeah.
So many people do it the opposite way.
I didn't just run to God. I surrendered.
You crawled on your knees.
I crawled and surrendered on my knees to the body of Christ in the chapel. And I said, I obviously don't know the plan. So please do with me what you will.
Yeah. And when you allow yourself to open up to God in that beautiful way, amazing things happen. And I've felt more connected to my faith and to God and to sharing it than ever before in my life. And it was it came from feeling the weakest and the most lost I've ever felt in my life. When I thought I lost everything that I loved, God came and said, put your focus right here. And I said, okay. Because everyone was always like, a lot of people will tell you when you break up with someone, like, it's time for you to do you. You need to focus on you and you need to be the priority. And I went, like, God's my priority. And in God being my priority, he's then helped me to grow and to be better and to heal. Because I didn't put the focus on me and how I felt and my struggle and how sad I was. Like that was part of it, but I put all my focus on, okay, God, what do I do? And because the focus was on him, he then took care of me as the loving father that he is. He scooped me up and took care of me. Amen.
And it's been a crazy summer, man. I didn't realize how in depth I was going to get talking about it, but I do appreciate, everyone that's listening. I got a little raw. I got a little real there.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, yeah, and you said you didn't realize it because maybe you hadn't stopped, and once you like saying it out loud, it starts to get really real, and you could see.
And it's funny because like that when I went to it's the craziest feeling, a crazy experience. When I went to the chapel that day, I literally was on my knees and I said out loud, not like okay, I went to prayer. I said out loud in front of the Blessed Sacrament. There was other people in the room, and I just said, God, I don't know what to do anymore. So I give it to you. I surrender. Tell me what you want. And that was that. And I said it that authentically and honestly.
And everyone's like, what?
The ladies are like, what is he saying? Like, who are you talking to? And it was crazy, man.
That's beautiful.
It was crazy.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that story with me and everyone listening.
Well, and that's the thing that real quick, the last point on it is it did not happen instantly. It took me months. I'm still on a process of growing and healing.
Exactly.
But it was like I didn't see God then step in till like months later.
Yeah.
But I was actively looking for him. I think that's a big thing.
That's the key.
Is I was living in a struggle. I would wake up every day upset. We talked. I was sad. I was upset. I was angry. I was frustrated. And I would cry a bunch. But every time anything happened,
you must have been watching Field of Dreams a lot.
Have been, yeah. But so many times I would go, when something would happen in life, or when I'd say a prayer, I'd be like, okay, God, I need this. I'd go out and be like, okay, where is he? God's out here somewhere, and he's trying to show me. I just got to look for it, because God's not a magician. He's not going to zap you and go, okay, pop, here's your opportunity.
Right.
Or bam, here's what you need to do. Or bam, here's the answer. You got to look. You got to look, and you got to be an active participant in the prayer. God is not a genie. God, you go to God in prayer and say, God, I need this. But you got to put in the work too, and go and be the active participant in that growth.
Yeah.
That was my last point.
Nice.
Sorry. Whew, I got a little flustered there.
It's good. All right. So I want to quick share a story on my own before we get to an hour. We got a little bit of time. So,
yeah. And you know what? And if we're going over an hour, sorry. If people are, I know this is a longer episode, but I had a friend once that said that he listens to our podcast. He goes, I just pause it. I'll just come back to it later. So that's okay. If they break it up, they don't listen all in one run.
Yeah. So right now you can go grab yourself a soda.
Go grab yourself Pete's coffee.
Get yourself a Pete's coffee, pause it, come on back, and you can hear my story. So, we each wanted to share a moment when we were really struggling, and when I think the same thing happened with me, where I had to actively look for God and look for the signs that He was there. And if I didn't do that, I think I would be in a much different place than I am right now. So I mentioned it on a previous podcast, but I'm a singer, I'm a musician, I work full-time for the church, a couple different churches. I do music. And before that, I was doing praise and worship music with a group called Jeremy and Ryan, and we would do LA Youth Day and NCYC and a bunch of big events. And I sing pretty high. I am a high tenor. And over the last 3 or 4 years, I've been noticing my voice has gotten progressively worse, and I would struggle with it day in and day out. And I would never be sure if on any particular day or when I would have to go and sing at church or sing at a gig or something like that, if I'd be able to perform.
Right, and it would really stress you out sometimes. Because you'd take these bookings and you'd be like, can I do this?
Exactly. I was the most stressed I've ever been. Again, even keel,
right?
Emotionally and stressed.
Does not get frazzled.
And I would be really stressed about this because I just, I want to perform at my best. And it wasn't the fact that I would like nothing would come out of my voice. I could kind of make it happen, and people would be like, "Oh, you sound fine. You sound fine." But for one, it started hurting my voice, and two, I knew personally that I was giving like 40% of what I could, and it's not good for me. So I ended up stopping booking myself. Yeah. I would only take the gigs that I absolutely had to, and at church I would divvy up and I would give it to other singers because I just couldn't do it, and it was getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And I started going down the rabbit hole on Dr. Google. I would have an idea.
Self-diagnosis.
I would be like, maybe I have this, and I would Google it, and I'd be on like this wild goose chase for a week, or 2 weeks. I'm like,
and he's not even exaggerating. He'd call me every day with like a different. This is what it is.
I'm like, dude, it's got to be. I went through pretty much every allergy. I'm like, it's my pillow. I'm allergic to my pillow. 2 weeks later, it's not the pillow. It wasn't the pillow all along.
It's the fibers in the carpet.
Yeah, I mean, I went through over the course of 2 years every single thing you could think of, probably, right? And nothing. And it kept getting worse and worse. And it kind of came to a head a year ago, summer last year, 2018, if you're listening in the future from now. I was having a lot of other health issues. I had the shingles. That's for old people usually.
You did have shingles.
I had shingles and I didn't even notice. I went for like a 10-mile run and I went to my doctor and they're like,
you have shingles.
They're like, what are you doing? You have the shingles. This would be like debilitating. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't realize it. So, I had all kinds of other weird health issues and I'm like, what's wrong with me? It's my voice and now it's all this other stuff. So I kind of, again, self-diagnosed that I had this thing called candida. It's like a fungus overgrowth in your body. And so the only way to get rid of it is through the candida diet. And I still do believe that I had it because this diet did work for me. But this was the hardest thing
this freaking diet
that I have ever done in my entire life. You guys have heard of the keto diet. It's where you eat like high fat, no carbs, no sugars. Your body starts burning.
How do you eat an outburger?
It goes on to ketosis instead of burning carbs or sugars for energy. You burn fat. So it's like a way more intense keto diet, this candida diet. Basically, and I did this for 4 months straight. 0 sugar, 0 things that can be turned into sugar in your body. And you don't realize how much you're addicted to sugar until you cut that out.
Or how much, or what the sugar's in everything.
Sugar is in everything. So literally for 4 months, I ate like 5 eggs a day. I ate chicken with nothing on it and spinach, broccoli, asparagus, and Brussels sprouts.
Coconut oil.
And so for every meal. And then I had like this giant thing of coconut oil that I ate with like a spoon. It was bad. So we were at our summer camp retreats that year, and I was doing this diet, and it's hard at camp food.
Yeah, well, you had to bring all of your own food, right?
I brought all my own food.
Because you don't know.
And so this was like a turning point because I'm right in the middle of, this was like week 3. I lost 20 pounds in 1 month, and I don't have any weight to lose. I had 0 energy. I was really struggling. I couldn't eat anything at camp. Everyone's having fun. And it was Wednesday night, and all the adults get In-N-Out. They get In-N-Out burger that night, and I'm watching them eat this, and I'm scooping out my coconut oil.
Just the most sad boy I've ever seen a person. He was using his finger because he was just so sad. He just eat this sad coconut oil. I wish I'd taken a picture.
But I didn't really talk about it much, but I was struggling more than I had ever been. I was all over the map emotionally, physically. I didn't know. I assumed, okay, I've always known that music is my calling, and as far as 10 years ago, I knew that music for the church was my calling, but I'm like, God, you're taking this away from me right now. And I was afraid that I would never get my voice back, honestly. And I still am a little bit.
You had talked about like making plans, like what maybe I'll just write.
I'm just going to be
whatever.
a composer, you know, and that's okay. If God has that plan for me and He wanted to redirect me, I would be okay with that. But I was pretty upset still. But that night, while they were eating In-N-Out, our camp director just casually was just like, "Hey guys, just to let you know, we had just had adoration." They're like, "We still have Jesus out in the back room there. If you guys wanted to go be with Him, that is available." And no one was going. And they were all eating in and out. So I just went back there and I sat in adoration for about 45 minutes and I wept. I was just crying, and a similar situation to what you were talking about. And I just had this moment of like, again, surrender. I just gave myself to Jesus, and I said, and then I don't know. That was just such an eye-opening experience for me, giving that all to Him and just giving Him the wheel, giving Him full control. And when I got back from that camp,
it's that not my will but your will.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I got back from that camp, I was just fired up. I don't know. He lit something in me, even though I still was on this diet for another 3 months. I started watching all these motivational videos, like self-help, like control your life, goal setting, schedule making, and I was on the most regimented schedule of my entire life for the next 6 months.
Yeah, a while.
I would wake up at like 6 a.m. I still do this. Here's the thing. I wake up and I have a morning prayer. I do 1 decade of the rosary. I do just prayer, free form. I do it's like self affirmations, and I end with push-ups, and it like just gets me fired up and ready to go. But then I was on this other, I was trying to read. I had a goal of 52 books in a year. So 1 book a week for an entire year. And I was on track. I was even ahead of schedule. I was reading every day. I was watching all these videos. I was reading scripture. I was doing all these like crazy things. I was setting all these goals and practicing piano like an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. It was the most productive and most regimented I'd ever been in my life. And most importantly, it was the closest I ever got to Jesus and in my faith in that period of time. I was going to daily mass. I was going to adoration more than I'd ever been, reconciliation more than I'd ever gone. So this horrible experience, this really difficult moment of not knowing if I'm going to be able to sing ever again, and on this diet where I have zero energy, I'm losing all this weight, questioning what is God doing, I ran to God instead of running away from God, and I gave Him the control, and it really lit a fire, and essentially I became a completely different person last year. Now, I will say a lot of these crazy regimented daily goals that I had, I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit month by month. Did I finish my 52 books in a year? No, I haven't read in a while, and I feel bad about that. And I miss my piano practice goals, and I miss some of my workout goals. But you know what I kept? I kept my spiritual goals alive. I still have that morning prayer. I still go to daily mass. I still am closer to God than ever through this. And I won't go into detail, but things are better. Maybe I'll share the end of this, but I kind of reached a turning point this summer, a year later, and I feel like, knock on wood, that I have turned the corner on my vocal problems. It's been good for the last 2 months, and I'm thanking God for every moment that I do have a working voice. I actually sang at a funeral this morning, and it felt amazing, and I felt like I could actually give my all to these people who were in mourning, and it was just an amazing gift that I could give that back. Thank you. So I praise Him every time that I do have that opportunity to sing at my best, but I also pray that this holds and this stays. And if it doesn't, that I have to just pivot and see where God is taking me. But it's been a wild journey for myself as well. Maybe I'll share in details, the end of this journey, but I don't want to go too much detail right now in specifics. But things are good, but it's crazy that just like how much of an intense situation that I was going through took me on this journey and led me closer to Christ than I've ever been before.
That's awesome, man. And you know what, I will say, dude, as someone that was, I was your best friend throughout the whole thing, like, you have really grown spiritually, and you can see that you've just been like, you know what, like, given that, not my will, God, but your will, and it's shown in your trust in God. And that's, I think, what we're going on here is it's giving God the reins, giving God the wheel, just saying, I whatever it is, whatever this struggle is, wherever I'm going through this, I may not understand it right now, but I'm giving it up to you, and I surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I will always go back to, this is my quote of the day, is we are not defined on by what we go through. We're not defined by what we go through, but who we come from.
Say it again.
Right? We're not defined by what we go through, but who we come from.
Meaning?
We're not defined in the struggle and the bad that we're going through, but our identity, our definition is from who we come from, because we are all children of God. We come from God. You know, that is our identity. Children of the living God. So that, if that's our identity, if that's how we define ourselves, then we don't have to be afraid of any struggle, because we know that no matter what, no matter how powerful a struggle may be, no matter how bogged down we may feel, no matter how lost and desperate we may feel, nothing is more powerful than God. And if we run to God, He will lift us out of it. And
that's beautiful.
That's the
beautiful.
end of it.
Guys, those are the kind of little moments that you get in Tuesday Thoughts. If you tune into our Instagram right there, like, that was well put, my friend.
Thanks, man.
Well put. So, I mean, we both struggled. Everybody struggles. I'm sure you guys are struggling, maybe going through some struggles right now. We are praying for you all. But again, are we trying to tell everyone our bad beat stories? Are we looking at the glass half full, half empty? Are we praying and discerning on how God is working in this? God might not have wanted this to happen, but God is truly leading you in the direction that you need to go, that He wants you to be on through these struggles.
And I think that when people struggle and stuff, and because people come to their friends with problems, like, hey, I'm struggling with this, whatever, like, I need help. Us as Catholics, we need to remember that, like, we can be there for people when they're struggling, but we should also be avenues to lead them to God. Like, hey, you know what, like, I'm here for you, yeah, but you know who's also there for you? And you know who can give you far better restoration than me? And that's Jesus. So let's go to adoration. Let's talk about this issue, and then let's go to adoration.
Yeah, help pave the road for them. Be that voice to help give them clarity through those journeys. So yes, be Christ-like to other people, because He's going to use you. You know, He's leading that way, but like, He does that through us.
All we want when we're struggling, when we're feeling down, all we want is comfort. Run to the loving arms of God. That's our comfort. That's our restoration. That's our fulfillment. You know, and it's my last, as we wrap here, I'm gonna go in Scripture. One of the most famous scriptures, Philippians 4:13. It's so popular. I have it tattooed on my arm. It's so popular. It says, "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength." In that context, a lot of people use it for like sports games or things like that. They're like, "I got this. I can do all things." When St. Paul wrote that, he was in jail. He was in jail. He was sick. He was miserable. He says, "I know what it's like to be poor, but I know what it's like to be rich. I've been through all of this stuff. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." He's saying that at his most vulnerable, that he can get through what he's going through because he can do all things through Christ who strengthens him. So let that be your scripture. Philippians 4:13 is about being able to get through your struggle because you can get through it because you have Christ.
Amen. What a great way to end the episode. That's awesome.
Scripture, man.
Scripture. Keep coming back to it. Keep coming back to it. So what a great episode. Thanks for sharing your story.
You too, man.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for listening and letting, being with us and being, it's, even though you're not here with us live, we know that people will be hearing this. And we hope that sharing our stories and our struggles and our surrender to God helps you.
Agreed. All right. So we'll just wrap up with a little bit of promos here. Guys, if you like the shirt here, our good friend Joe Melendrez over at GodSwag.com or
GodSwagApparel.com
or JoeMelendrez.com.
Yeah, you can. He's got tons of cool stuff.
So yeah, go check him out. He's got great stuff. But we're looking for new logos. So if anyone wants to, we're looking for cartoons for ourselves.
Yeah, we want to look like two cartoon dudes. So if anyone's really good at graphic design or animation, and you can DM us on Facebook, Instagram. We'll send you some pictures of us.
Or Gmail
or
Two Catholic Dudes at gmail.com. Again, we want to thank everyone for all the great support on YouTube. We've been getting so many great comments, a lot more views on there, and that's going to help more and more people find us.
Yeah.
We thanks for all the new people that have joined us on Instagram. It's been such a...
I'm going to say out loud, I'm going to pray that I hope that by this time this episode comes out, we'll be at over 1,000 followers.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna put that out in the universe.
The thing is, it's not about the followers because so many people are tied up about the numbers and stuff like that.
Sure.
But we do care about the numbers because the more people that are on our page, the more people that can see this, and we feel like we want this message to be out to as many people as possible.
Amen.
So we're not doing it for just the numbers and just to be like an Instagram celebrities. That's not what we're about. But we want our message to be heard. So please feel free to share it with your friends. Support us any way you feel you can.
Yeah, and. If you have, we've been getting some direct messages from people just reaching out, chatting with us about prayer requests or things that they're struggling with or whatever. Please feel free. Our DMs are open on our Instagram. We'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, we'll hit you right back.
Yeah.
We love talking with you guys, so keep that coming. We are available for events. We're booking right now for 2020. We've already got some lined up, so if you want to get us, please, again, Gmail or Instagram or however you want to reach us. But we would be happy to come to your parish to do talks, to do music, to lead games, to be there for, we could do confirmation retreats, full-on week-long camps. We could do one-day events, whatever you guys need. We're your guys. Patreon.com as well if you want to support us financially. We really appreciate that. That's probably enough rambling at the end of this. So,
you know what I just realized that we did, though?
What's up?
We didn't say our opening line.
You guys, we totally didn't do it.
We didn't do it. Should I do it? I've never done it before.
Yeah, do it to finish.
So to wrap, we're not priests. We're not theologians. We're just two Catholic dudes, and we were talking about our faith. Thanks for listening.
Feels good, right?
Yeah, wow.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Bye.